Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of r/Tales from the Front Desk. My name's Ryan, the official host here at Reddit Voice, and I look forward to bringing you guys today's video. Before I do though, I'd just really appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to stay up to date on all the latest videos. 20-something-year-old calls mommy because she was mistreated. 10-year-old hotel vet, longtime lurker in this sub, first-time post. I hear it's therapeutic. Let's find out. The other night, I had a guest come down to the lobby and sit and begin to listen to our music on her phone. She didn't have headphones in, and the music was very loud with explicit lyrics. But it was 11 at night and fairly slow, and I didn't want to give her trouble, so I let it go on for about 10 minutes. Eventually, the lounge closed and 3 to 4 stragglers came walking through the lobby back to their rooms. A few glanced between me and her with a strange look. I just raised my eyebrows to them in acknowledgement, but at this point it still didn't seem like a huge problem and it wasn't bothering me. Minutes later, one of my last arrivals comes in. It's an older lady with the air of someone who's definitely going to leave a review with nothing but complaints. And right off the bat, the music from the phone gets ridiculously explicit. I'm hurrying to check this woman in as fast as possible while she's constantly evil-eyeing the lady on the couch and shaking her head in disappointment at me. I get her checked in and she leaves for the room, and at this point I realize I have to do something, so I politely address the lady on the couch. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but the sound on the phone will have to be off while you're in the lobby." She shrugged, got up, and walked to her room. That actually went well, right? Cue to the next night, I had ran to the kitchen for about 5 minutes to help the restaurant staff close a few things down for the night. And as I'm walking back to the desk, I noticed the same lady sitting on the couch, and in a chair next to her is a guy about her age. They both appear to be in their mid-20s, way too old for childish behavior. But I immediately knew that's what I was going to get. As I say hi to them, I notice the girl look at the guy and nod. He nods in return, and it was obviously in an attempt at clandestinely saying, "Yep, that's the guy." Oh good, what's this gonna be? I get behind the desk and brace for what these two are about to try to do. The guy asks the girl something along the line of, "Hey, have you heard of such and such song?" He's saying it loud enough for me to hear in a tone that's so obviously planned and staged. He then says he'll play it for her and immediately starts blasting some weird-ass song from a genre of music I can only describe as hardcore, circus-themed EDM, and every other word is fuck, shit, or ass. I'm not going to let this get to the point I did the night before, so I immediately and politely tell the guy the sound has to be off. He replies with, "I'm not going to turn it off, but I'll turn it down some." I shut him down and say that no, it needs to be off. He obliges, then begins having a conversation with the girl that is, again, aimed at me. They're basically throwing backhanded insults my way, just loud enough for me to hear, and acting like they're having a private conversation. At one point, the woman actually calls her mom on her cell phone and begins to tell her how badly the hotel is mistreating her. Whatever, I'm not easily offended, and I've seen my fair share of assholes. Eventually, someone coming from the lounge passes through the lobby while talking to someone on his cell phone. The lady yells at him and tells him he's being too loud on his phone and is going to get kicked out. That was enough for me. Now you're messing with business. You've got to go. I tell them both they're going to need to go to their rooms for the night. They ignore me and act like they didn't hear, so I picked up the phone and pretended to dial security. Security doesn't actually have a phone, they have a radio, but I was hoping for the bluff alone to work. It did, and they both got up quickly and scurried to their room. I got a call from my GM the next day asking me what happened with these guests. He said that the girl's mom drove to the hotel and demanded to see a manager and screamed for 15 minutes at how rude I had been. I told my GM what had happened and we shared a laugh. He told me if I had any more issues, just go straight to the cops and have them escorted off the property. Then came night 3. The lady came back down to the lobby holding hands with another girl. They both made sure to hold their hands up so that I could see it and shoot me a passive-aggressive grin. I currently live up north, but I'm from the south and have a thick accent that most people immediately pick up on. I honestly believed that they were trying to bait me into saying or doing something homophobic, assuming that I must be a stereotypical hardcore Southern Christian gay-hating Klansman or something. They stood at our local brochure cabinet and browsed while talking under their breath. Not loud enough for me to hear, but I'm sure it was aimed at me. A few minutes later, the guy joins them and the conversation becomes loud enough for me to hear, and it's definitely more insults thrown my way. At this point, I decided it was enough, and I told them they were going to need to return to their rooms or I would have security escort them off the premises. They demanded to know why, and I told them the truth as best as I could put it. Because none of you have emotionally matured past middle school, and I won't sit here and be disrespected for a second night because you fail to understand why we can't have curse words blaring in a place of business. The girl said something along the lines of, "Did you not learn your lesson today? I guess I'll have to call my mom again." I told her to go ahead and her mom could be escorted off the property as well, and they stormed off to their room. Got a call from the GM the next day. Mommy had been back and he had promptly ended their reservation a day early. I love my GM. TLDR, 20-something-year-old girl uses call mom twice because I won't allow her to blare explicit music in the lobby, and it's not very effective. Also, that word was explicit. I just had a bit of a mini stroke while reading it. Guest got mad that I didn't get mad or upset about a gay man flirting with me. TLDR is the title. Being a hostel in Miami, you deal with a lot of different kinds of people. Some are eccentric, some are reserved, and some are unnecessarily racist. Some are just plain stupid. I've had a guest the past few nights who is obviously gay and sometimes tries to flirt with me. I personally have nothing against this. I usually find it flattering that he's attracted to me, and I myself am not gay. He knows that I'm not gay, but I suppose he finds the need to flirt a little with me anyway. I am a 6'1" straight male and happily engaged to the love of my life. I'm comfortable enough with myself and my own sexuality to not at all be bothered by this. But this other guest clearly struggles with that. The gay man comes by and flatters me some by complimenting my beard and my eyes and then heads into the guest area kitchen, and the man with a Scottish accent, SM, comes to me with a complaint. "What the fuck was that, mate?" "What?" "That queer just got all faily on ya and you don't have a problem?" "I'm sorry, sir, but how is that your business?" "'Cause a man like yourself shouldn't have to be flirted with like you're a fucking pixie, mate." "I'm sorry that bothers you, sir, but that's none of your concern. Please enjoy the rest of your night." "Oh, so you are one of those. Can't say that on YouTube though, that's for sure." Also, I apologize for how terrible this accent is. At that point, I just became more done than my steak. I just give him the ultimatum. "Sir, here at South Beach Sarcastics Hotel, we tolerate people of all backgrounds and sexualities. If you do not respect that, then you are welcome to find other accommodations for your stay here in Miami." SM proceeds to flip me the bird and walk away to the guest area. Moments later, the man who was being a flirt came out and said that SM came to the kitchen and called him and his friends "effing bad word for gay people," and went to his room. I went after SM to kick his dumb ass out, and he tells me, "It's fine, you fucking queer lover. I'm leaving anyway. This place doesn't deserve me money." I proceed to get his passport photo from our system, upload it to the group chat I have with other night auditors in the area specifically for do not rents and dangerous people, and went about my night. My new gay friend bought me some pizza and wings, so that was cool. Everyone else, have yourselves a good night. Edit after I woke up. Geez, thanks for the gold and to everyone who supported me. To give an update, SM tried to check into other hotels and hostels in the proximity and got rejected. My boss told me he was staying for a week until his apartment lease started. Hope he enjoys Miami like how all my gay friends do. Thanks again, everyone. Edit afterwards. To those who think I'm explicitly saying Scots are homophobic, I'm sorry you feel that way. But that's not the case. Sorry you misconstrued this as Scots are homophobic. This man had a Scottish accent, but his passport was American. He's more than likely picked up words and dialect while living in the States. I apologize if you got offended, but that's not what it was supposed to be the case, and you should not feel as though this is a personal attack on Scots, because that's just silly to think about, to be frank. Why you should always be nice to potential hires. This is a bit of a long story about the value of being professional and nice no matter what position you're in. Mods, I've had to change some details of the story since my wife's work is very specialized. She must stay anonymous since stuff like this gets around. My wife and I moved to our current city back in 2013. The standards for my wife's job here are different from the standards back home. She has an associate's degree and most employees wanted a bachelor's degree. However, nothing could stop her and she kept putting in applications. One day, one of the employers she had sent applications to called her back. However, it was not to tell her she had gotten the job. Instead, it was the manager telling her how unprofessional it was for her to put in for positions that were obviously above her. In fact, I'm going to delete your email from our system. Please don't apply anymore, it's just a waste of our time. I'll send you a letter since you just can't seem to follow directions in my emails. My wife, after she got over her initial shock, asked the manager for her name. I don't see why it matters, but Ivanka Tulip. My wife said thank you and continued her job hunt. Sure enough, she got the letter in the mail asking her not to apply anymore, citing inability to follow clear directions. My wife held on to this letter. I told her to throw it away, but she insisted on keeping it. Eventually, my wife landed a job at one of the biggest employers in the city. Not only that, but this employer was the main supply of business to the employer that was rude to my wife. Well, my wife is an extremely precocious and hardworking person, and eventually got her bachelor's and then became the manager over her crew. One of the manager's responsibilities was to decide who to send business to. My wife told her boss about the letter and what happened and used that as justification that if this is how a business treats potential hires, then they really shouldn't be trusted with their business. Her boss honestly probably didn't care very much and just let my wife do what she does. Honestly, my wife is kind of a badass and it wouldn't surprise me if her boss just gave her whatever it took to keep happy. Wouldn't you know it, the rude employer's business went way down. In fact, my wife would only give them business if they were the last ones who could be called. This led to the most awesome meeting my wife has had this year. You see, to improve the relationships, the crappy employer set up a meeting with my wife and my wife's boss, and the shitty business's top management. They needed this meeting to show how much value they could add. The day of the meeting comes and everyone introduces themselves. Finally, Mrs. Tulip says she is the manager and how nice it was to meet everyone. That's when my wife said, "Excuse me, I just want to be certain, are you Mrs. Ivanka Tulip?" Ivanka, "Yes, that's me." My wife, "Oh, excellent, I'm so happy to finally meet you in person." Thinking she had it in with my wife, Mrs. Tulip was over the moon. My wife let them carry on and tell her all about how much value they could add to the business and how they could really help out my wife's employer. This is when my wife says, "Well, thank you, but unfortunately I feel we can't really give business to an employer who has some ethical issues that need to be addressed." Big boss from bad employer, "Excuse me, we were not made aware of any ethical issues. What are you talking about?" That's when my wife brought out the letter that was signed by Mrs. Tulip. My wife then tells them that if they treat potential hires this way, then it was an ethics issue for my wife, and it would be very hard for my wife to give them business. Since she had concerns about the welfare of the business she couldn't approve any more goes to bad business than absolutely necessary. Mrs. Tulip turned white, and you could hear a pin drop on the other side of the table. My wife thanked them for their time, but apologized and went back to her work. We don't know if anything ever happened to Mrs. Tulip, but that business has since downsized and has gotten a reputation for being a poor choice to send business throughout my wife's organization. TLDR, wife gets shitty response from bad employer, and then the tables get turned when my wife is the one who decides to send the majority of shitty employer's business somewhere else. A quick edit. First of all, wow, I'm totally blown away by how much this post blew up, way beyond what I was expecting. I'll address some concerns people have had. The business in question had multiple things going on, including bad outcomes from previous business that was sent their way. I should have been more clear about that, to be perfectly honest. If I had known how much this was gonna blow up, I wouldn't have even shared. To the folks who say it's all made up, I completely understand where you're coming from. I would love to give them more details, however, it's just not worth it since my wife works in a small industry. What I will say is that anything you read on Reddit you should take with a huge grain of salt. Believe it, don't believe it, totally up to you. I do understand where you're coming from though, and had I not been there and read this same post from your perspective, I would probably feel the same way. To the folks who think that my wife's only reason for doing what she did was the letter, it's not. All I can say is that the business in question would not have had any issues had they just done what they were supposed to do. That's all I can say about it. My wife's letter was kind of the icing on the cake and an example of poor behavior on their part. Anyways, I hope you have all enjoyed it. Have a great day. I have to get back to work and see you all on the internet when I get back home. You're not legally allowed to ask that. You're in trouble. Nothing grinds my gears more than when people try to abuse the service dog's loophole. This lady came in and dodged and wouldn't answer the 2 legal questions that we are allowed to ask them. She kept mouthing off that it's illegal to ask them. Major red flag. Kept going off about how much trouble I will be in. Sure, lady. So I went ahead and printed out the ADA rules about them. She refused to read them even though I highlighted the parts where it says I'm legally allowed to ask these questions. Kept saying I have papers, here read them. Finally, she let it slip that it was a comfort thing for his PTSD. It was being respectful the whole time, but also stern and nice. But, I got let inside a courthouse before. I have a vest and certificate to show. I paid $40 for it, and another red flag as training for a service dog is expensive. Yes, ma'am, you got let in because you purposefully misidentified your dog as a service dog instead of an emotional support dog. It is illegal to claim a non-service dog as one of them, she said as she forgot her charger in the car and never came back. Don't downvote me, I only allowed service dogs in, and 100% of the time, the legit people who need will gladly answer the 2 legal questions we can ask. Frauds like her ruin it for real service dogs. People either don't understand the difference or refuse to because most are afraid to challenge them on their emotional support dog legal rights. They aren't protected by the ADA nor recognized. Thankfully, the 2 legal questions can weed them out most of the time. Edit. The question is for some of you. Is the dog a service animal required because of a disability? And 2, what work or task has the dog been trained to perform? I am baffled by how some are actually okay or siding with the fraud on this. I get it, we all love dogs, but laws are laws and we have to follow them, and our policy of our employers. And with that, my friends, we've reached the end of today's episode of r/Tales from the Front Desk. If you liked it, make sure to leave a like and also subscribe. As always, my name's Ryan, the official host here at Reddit Voice, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.